Dr. Kim Yuna rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the screens around her. She had been working for 12 hours straight at the deep space monitoring station called Lighthouse. The station floated far from Earth, watching for signals from other worlds and star systems. Most days were quiet, with only the usual background noise from distant stars and planets. Yuna was a xenolinguist, which meant she studied alien languages. Even though humans had met many alien species over the years, new ones still appeared sometimes. Her job was to listen for their signals and try to understand what they were saying. The coffee in her cup had gone cold hours ago, but she kept sipping it anyway. The night shift was always the longest. Most of the other crew members were asleep, leaving only a few people to watch the monitors. Suddenly, one of her screens lit up with activity. A new signal was coming in from a direction they had never seen before. The signal was strong and clear, unlike the weak transmissions they usually received. "That's strange," Yuna said to herself. She put down her coffee and started working on her computer. The signal was coming from the Andromeda sector, a part of space that was mostly empty as far as humans knew. She ran the signal through her translation programs, but nothing worked. This was definitely a new language from a species they had never met before. The patterns were unlike anything in their database. Yuna called over to Lieutenant Bei Seojin, who was monitoring the communication systems. "Seojin, come look at this. I'm getting something really unusual." Bei walked over to her station and looked at the screens. "What is it?" "It's a transmission from Andromeda sector. The patterns suggest it might be a distress call, but I can't translate it yet. The language is completely new." Bei frowned. "How strong is the signal?" "Very strong. Whoever sent this has powerful transmitters. They really want someone to hear this message." Yuna worked for the next 2 hours, using every tool and program she had. Slowly, she started to understand parts of the alien language. The patterns became clearer and words started to make sense. What she discovered made her stomach drop. It was indeed a distress call, and it was desperate. The aliens called themselves the Velothi, and they were dying. Their entire species was about to be destroyed by something they called the Devourer. Yuna's hand shook as she translated more of the message. The Velothi described their homeworld, Velith Prime, as a beautiful planet with crystal cities and peaceful people. They had lived there for thousands of years without war or violence. But now something terrible was coming for them. The Devourer was a dark storm that moved through space, eating entire star systems. It had already destroyed many worlds, and now it was heading straight for Velith Prime. The Velothi had tried everything they could think of. They had no weapons because they were a peaceful people who had never needed to fight. They had no way to stop the Devourer or even slow it down. They had evacuated their homeworld and moved to 3 colony planets, but the Devourer was following them. They calculated that they had maybe 6 months before it would consume all their worlds and their entire species would be extinct. Yuna read the most heartbreaking part of the message. The Velothi weren't really asking for help. They knew they were going to die. Instead, they were asking for someone to remember them. They wanted some other species to keep records of their culture, their art, and their way of life. They didn't want to disappear completely from the universe. "We do not ask for salvation," the message said. "We only ask that our children's laughter and our people's songs not be forgotten when the darkness takes us." Yuna wiped tears from her eyes. She had never met these aliens, but their message was so sad and desperate that it broke her heart. She immediately called Commander Park Taiho, who was sleeping in his quarters. The communication system buzzed several times before he answered. "This better be important, Yuna," Park said in a sleepy voice. "Commander, you need to see this right away. We've received a distress call from a new species. They're about to go extinct, and they're asking for help." Park was quiet for a moment, then his voice became serious. "I'll be right there." Within 10 minutes, Commander Park arrived at the monitoring station. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had been in charge of Lighthouse Station for 5 years, and had always cared deeply about the crew and their mission. Yuna showed him the translated message. Park read it carefully, asking questions about the translation and the source of the signal. When he finished reading, he was quiet for a long time. "How far away are they?" he finally asked. About 8 months travel time with our fastest ships, Una replied. And you're sure about this translation? I've checked it 3 times. The message is clear. These people are going to die unless someone helps them. Park nodded slowly. Wake up Chief Engineer Lee Minho and Dr. Kang Suman. Get them down here immediately. Also contact Earth Command and tell them we need to speak with them urgently. Yes, sir. Within an hour, the senior staff had gathered in the monitoring room. Lee Minho was the chief engineer, a short man who was brilliant with machines and spacecraft. Dr. Kang Suman was their xenobiologist and expert on alien life forms. Park explained the situation to everyone. They listened carefully as Una played the translated message. When it finished, the room was silent. What do we know about this devourer? Park asked. Dr. Kang shook her head. Nothing. We've never heard of anything like it. But based on their description, it sounds like some kind of cosmic phenomenon that consumes matter and energy. Could we help them? Park asked Lee Minho. The engineer thought for a moment. Theoretically, yes, we have transport ships that could evacuate people, but we're talking about 12 billion aliens spread across 4 worlds. We would need hundreds of ships and thousands of crew members. It would be the biggest rescue mission in history. And it would be dangerous, Dr. Kang added. We don't know what this devourer really is. Our ships might not be safe near it. Park looked at the screen showing the Velati message. What does Earth Command say? They want more information before they make any decisions, Una replied. They're concerned about the cost and the risks. Park understood their concerns. A rescue mission like this would cost enormous amounts of money and resources. Many human lives could be lost, and they would be doing it all for aliens they had never met before. But as he read the Velati message again, Park knew what he had to do. These people were going to die unless someone helped them. They weren't asking for money or power or anything selfish. They just wanted to live. Send a message back to the Velati, Park said. Tell them we received their transmission. Tell them we're going to help. Sir? Lee Minho looked surprised. We don't have authorization for a rescue mission yet. We will, Park said firmly. And tell them something else. Tell them we're not just going to remember them, we're going to save them. Una started typing the response message. As she worked, she felt hope for the first time since receiving the distress call. She didn't know how they would do it, but somehow she believed Commander Park was right. They were going to save the Velati. The message went out into space, racing toward the Andromeda sector at the speed of light. It would take months to reach the Velati, but it carried a promise that would change everything. Humans had heard the cry for help and they were coming. President Choi Ji-won stood at the podium in the Terran Congress building, looking out at hundreds of representatives from all over human space. Behind her, a large screen showed the translated Velati message that had started everything. 3. Weeks had passed since Commander Park had sent the reply to the Velati. In that time, the news had spread across all human worlds. Everyone was talking about the aliens who needed help and the impossible rescue mission that some people wanted to attempt. Ladies and gentlemen, President Choi began, we face a choice that will define who we are as a species. 12 billion innocent beings are about to die, and we have the power to save them. Some representatives nodded while others looked worried. The cost estimates for the rescue mission were staggering. It would require more ships, more resources, and more money than any military operation in human history. I propose Operation Shepherd, the president continued. We will mobilize our entire fleet to evacuate the Velati people and bring them to safety in human space. Representative Kim Do-jin stood up. Madam President, the economic impact would be devastating. We're talking about converting our entire merchant fleet, stripping resources from hundreds of worlds, and putting millions of our own people at risk. For aliens we've never met. That's exactly why we have to do it, President Choi replied. Because they are strangers who need help. Because it's the right thing to do. The debate went on for hours. Some representatives argued that humanity couldn't afford such a massive operation. Others worried about the dangers of the devourer. A few suggested that other alien species in the Galactic Coalition should share the cost. But when the vote was called, the result was clear. The Terran Congress approved Operation Shepherd by a wide margin. Humans would go to save the Valathi, with or without help from other species. Admiral Song Hyok received the orders at his headquarters on Mars. He was a veteran officer who had commanded fleets during the border conflicts with the Zephyrian Empire. But nothing in his experience had prepared him for this mission. The numbers were incredible. They needed to evacuate 12 billion aliens from 4 different worlds. The aliens breathed different air and lived in different temperatures than humans. They would need specialized life support systems and environmental controls. Admiral Song called his best officers to a meeting. "We have 6 months to prepare the largest rescue fleet in galactic history," he told them. "I need ideas, and I need them fast." Captain Yoon Ji-ho was the first to speak. He commanded the newest human dreadnought, a massive warship designed for deep space operations. "Sir, we should use the military ships as the backbone of the fleet. We have the power systems and the space to install alien life support." "What? About transport capacity?" Admiral Song asked. "We'll need to convert civilian ships," said Captain Na Wanbin, who commanded a transport squadron. "Cargo haulers, passenger liners, mining ships. Anything that can carry people and keep them alive during the journey." Dr. Kang Suman joined the meeting by video link from her research station. "I've been studying the Valathi physiology based on their transmissions," she said. "They're completely different from humans. They breathe methane and nitrogen, they need much colder temperatures, and their body chemistry is unlike anything we've seen before." "How different?" Admiral Song asked. "They would die in minutes in our normal ship environment. We need to build completely new life support systems for them." Chief Engineer Lee Min-ho, who had been promoted after his work at Lighthouse Station, looked at the technical requirements. "It's possible, but we'll need to retrofit every single ship in the rescue fleet. We're talking about installing new atmospheric processors, heating and cooling systems, and gravity generators calibrated for alien physiology." "How long?" Admiral Song asked. "Under normal circumstances?" 2 years minimum." "We have 6 months." Lee Min-ho was quiet for a moment. "Then we'll need to mobilize every shipyard, every engineering crew, and every technical expert in human space. And we'll need to work around the clock." That's exactly what happened. Within days of the congressional vote, human space transformed into a massive production center focused entirely on Operation Shepherd. On Earth, the orbital shipyards expanded their operations. Workers labored in 3 shifts, 24 hours a day, converting merchant vessels into alien transports. The asteroid mining stations redirected their operations to provide raw materials for the ship modifications. Captain Yoon Ji-ho supervised the conversion of his own dreadnought. The weapon systems were removed to make room for Valathi environmental modules. The crew quarters were reconfigured with the colder temperatures and different atmosphere the aliens would need. Dr. Kang Suman worked with teams of engineers to design the life support systems. They had never built anything like it before, but they learned quickly. Every day brought new solutions to problems they had never imagined. Chief Engineer Lee Min-ho traveled from shipyard to shipyard, checking the modifications and training crews on the new systems. He barely slept, surviving on coffee and determination. The civilian response was just as impressive. When the government asked for volunteers to crew the rescue ships, millions of people applied. Experienced spacers, young graduates from the academies, and even retired veterans came forward to help. Merchant Captain Ro Daejung volunteered his entire cargo fleet. "These ships were built to carry goods," he told the reporters. "Now they'll carry hope." The Galactic Coalition watched humanity's preparations with growing amazement and concern. Ambassador Na Un-jin attended meetings where other alien species questioned human sanity. "This is economically irrational," said the Zephyrian representative. "You're spending resources equivalent to fighting a major war, and for what? Aliens who offer you nothing in return." "The Crystalline Confederation agrees," added another alien diplomat. "Your species is being recklessly emotional. This rescue mission will bankrupt your economy." Ambassador Na smiled politely. "Perhaps you don't understand humans very well. We don't calculate the cost of doing what's right." But privately she worried. Other alien species were starting to view humanity as unstable and unpredictable. Some were even discussing economic sanctions against human worlds. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Bei Seojin led the advanced scout missions. His small fleet of fast ships jumped ahead toward Velothi space, trying to establish better communication and gather intelligence about the Devourer. The journey took months, but finally Bei's ships reached the edge of Velothi space. What they found there was both wonderful and terrifying. The Velothi worlds were beautiful. Even from space, the planets looked like jewels with crystal cities that sparkled in the light of their sun, but beyond them, they could see the dark shadow of the Devourer approaching. It was massive beyond imagination, a storm of dark energy that stretched across light years. As it moved, it consumed everything in its path. Stars went out. Planets disappeared, and space itself seemed to twist and bend around it. Bei sent his reports back to Admiral Song. The Devourer is real, and it's worse than we thought. But the Velothi are still alive. They're waiting for us. On Earth, President Choi addressed the nation one more time before the fleet departed. Some people ask why we're doing this, she said. Why we're risking so much for strangers? The answer is simple. Because they asked for help and we are human. Admiral Song stood on the bridge of his flagship as the rescue fleet assembled. 50,000 ships of all sizes and types hung in space around him. Cargo haulers converted into transports. Passenger liners fitted with alien life support. Military vessels stripped of weapons to make room for refugees. 2 million human volunteers crewed these ships. They came from every world, every background, every walk of life. They all had one thing in common. They had heard the Velothi cry for help, and they had answered. Captain Yoon Ji-ho contacted the admiral from his converted dreadnought. All ships report ready, sir. Admiral Song looked at the massive fleet one more time. In his 40 years of military service, he had never seen anything like it. Humanity had transformed itself overnight from a normal spacefaring species into something unprecedented. All ships, he announced over the fleet communication system. This is Admiral Song. Today we begin Operation Shepherd. We go not as conquerors, but as rescuers. We carry the hopes of 12 billion Velothi people and the honor of our own species. Let's bring them home. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, disappearing in flashes of light. Behind them, human space continued working to support the mission. Factories produced supplies, communication stations maintained contact, and families waited and prayed for their loved ones. The galaxy had never seen anything like humanity's response to the Velothi distress call. Other species called it insane, wasteful, and dangerous. But for humans, it was simply what they did when someone needed help. They gave everything they had. Captain Yoon Ji-ho's ship dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Velothi system. Around him, the advanced scout fleet emerged from the bright flashes of their jump drives. After months of travel, they had finally reached the aliens who had called for help. Sensors are picking up multiple energy signatures, reported his communications officer. There are definitely inhabited worlds here. Ji-ho looked at the main screen. 3 planets orbited a yellow sun, and each one showed signs of civilization. Cities covered their surfaces and spacecraft moved between them. But there was something else visible too. A dark shadow on the far side of the system that seemed to swallow light itself. Is that the Devourer? Ji-ho asked. Yes, sir. It's still several months away, but it's definitely moving toward the inhabited worlds. Lieutenant Bei Seojin's voice came through the communication system from his scout ship. Captain, I'm detecting transmissions from the second planet. They know we're here. Within minutes, the human ships received a message in the same language. They had first heard at Lighthouse Station. Dr. Kim Yuna, who had traveled with the advance fleet, worked quickly to translate it. They're asking who we are and why we've come, she reported. They seem surprised. Ji-ho had prepared for this moment during the long journey. Send back our response. Tell them we're humans from Earth, and we received their distress call. Tell them we're here to help. The reply came back quickly. Yuna translated with excitement in her voice. Captain, they can't believe it. They're asking if we really came all this way just to help them. They want to know what we want in return. Tell them we don't want anything in return. We're here because they needed help. There was a longer pause before the next message arrived. When Yuna translated it, her voice was soft with emotion. They're inviting us to visit their world. They want to meet us in person. The planet they approached was unlike anything humans had ever seen. The cities were made of crystal that grew from the ground like trees. The buildings curved and spiraled upward, catching sunlight and throwing rainbows across the landscape. It was beautiful beyond imagination. As their shuttles descended toward the surface, the humans could see the Velothi waiting for them. The aliens were tall and graceful, with bodies that seemed to be made of living crystal. Light passed through, their translucent skin, creating patterns of color that shifted and changed as they moved. Captain Jiho, Dr. Kim Yuna, and Dr. Kang Suman were the first humans to step onto Velothi soil. The atmosphere was thick with methane, so they wore environmental suits. But even through their helmets, they could hear the strange, beautiful sounds the Velothi made when they communicated. The Velothi leader approached them slowly. Like all of his people, he was tall and thin, with crystal-like skin that refracted light into beautiful patterns. When he spoke, his body resonated with harmonic tones that were unlike anything humans had heard before. Yuna's translation device worked to convert his words into human language. "I am first echo of sorrow," he said. "I speak for the Velothi people. We cannot understand why you have come. We sent our message to the stars hoping someone would remember us. But you came here to save us. Why?" Captain Jiho removed his helmet's face shield so the alien could see his expression. "Because you asked for help," he said simply. "That's what we do." First echo of sorrow's crystal body shifted through different colors, showing his confusion. "But we are strangers. We have nothing to offer you. Our worlds are about to be destroyed. Saving us would cost you much and give you nothing." Dr. Kang Suman stepped forward. "You're wrong about that. Saving you gives us something very important." "What is that?" "It lets us sleep at night knowing we did the right thing." The Velothi leader was quiet for a long time. Then his body began to glow with warm golden light. "I think I am beginning to understand humans," he said. Over the next few days, the humans learned about Velothi society. The aliens were completely peaceful. They had never fought a war, never built weapons, never even argued with each other in the way humans did. When they had disagreements, they would sing together in harmony until they found a solution that everyone could accept. Dr. Kang Suman worked with a Velothi scientist named Thiril 9 Echoes to understand their biology. The aliens were silicon-based, rather than carbon-based like humans. They breathed methane and nitrogen, and their bodies needed much colder temperatures to function properly.
"This is going to be very difficult," Dr. Kang told Captain Jiho privately. "They can't survive in our normal ship environments, and we can't survive in theirs. We'll need completely separate life support systems." "Can it be done?" "Yes, but it
"Will require major modifications to every ship in the rescue fleet, and will need to be very careful during the transfer process. Even a small mistake could kill them." Meanwhile, Dr. Kim Yuna learned more about Velothi culture. They were artists and philosophers, spending their long lives creating music, poetry, and sculptures from living crystal. Their cities were works of art that had been growing and evolving for thousands of years. "Your people must be very wise to live in such peace," Yuna told Thiril 9 Echoes. The Velothi scientist's body showed patterns of blue and silver, which Yuna had learned indicated sadness. "We thought we were wise," he replied. "But wisdom did not save us from the devourer. We had no weapons to fight it, no ships to escape it. We could only watch as it consumed world after world, coming closer to us. You sent messages to other species, didn't you?" "Yes. Over the past 10 years, we contacted 17 different civilizations. We asked for help, for advice, for anything they could offer." "What did they say?" Thiril 9 Echoes was quiet for a moment. "Most did not reply at all. A few sent messages of sympathy. 3 offered to preserve records of our culture so we would not be completely forgotten, but none offered to help us escape. You are the first to come." Yuna felt angry at the other alien species, but she tried not to show it. "What did they say when you asked why they wouldn't help?" They said we had nothing to offer in return. They said the cost would be too high for the benefit. They said it was not logical to risk their own people for strangers. One species told us that extinction was natural, and we should accept our fate with dignity. Dr. Yuna couldn't hide her emotions anymore. That's horrible. How could they just let you die? We thought that was how the galaxy worked, Theral 9 Echoes replied. Each species looks after itself, and the weak are left to die. But then you came. You crossed the galaxy not for profit or advantage, but simply because we asked for help. We did not know such beings existed. News of the humans' arrival spread quickly through all 3 Velothi worlds. Everywhere the human ships went, crowds of crystal beings gathered to see them. The Velothi couldn't understand why these strange aliens had traveled so far to help people they had never met. Captain Jiho attended a meeting with the Velothi Council of Echoes, their governing body. The council chamber was a crystal dome that amplified and harmonized the voices of everyone who spoke inside it. First Echo of Sorrow tells us you came to save our people, said an elderly Velothi, whose crystal body was clouded with age. But, we must ask, what is the price? What do you require of us? We don't require anything, Jiho replied. We're here because you needed help. The council members' bodies flickered through various colors as they communicated with each other in frequencies, too high for human ears to hear. Finally, First Echo of Sorrow spoke for them all. We have spent many cycles trying to understand this. In our observations of other species, help always comes with a price. Resources, territory, servitude, alliance and wars. But you ask for nothing. This is not how the galaxy works. Maybe that's the problem with the galaxy, Jiho said. Just then, Lieutenant Bei Seojin's urgent voice came through the communication system. Captain, you need to see this. The main fleet is arriving. Everyone rushed to the crystal windows of the council chamber. In the sky above, points of light began to appear. First a few, then dozens, then hundreds. Ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, filling the sky with their navigation lights. The Velothi stared in amazement as more and more ships appeared. Massive dreadnoughts, sleek cruisers, bulky cargo haulers, elegant passenger liners, every type of human ship imaginable, all converted for the rescue mission. How many? Whispered First Echo of Sorrow. Captain Jiho checked his communication display. 50,000 ships, sir. 2 million human volunteers. The Velothi Council members' crystal bodies began to glow brighter and brighter. Some started making sounds that Yuna's translator couldn't interpret, but she recognized the emotion behind them. They were crying. First Echo of Sorrow turned to face the humans. Your entire species came to save us. Not our entire species, Jiho corrected. Just everyone who could help. Admiral Song Hyok's voice came through the fleet communication system, broadcast to every human ship and transmitted to the Velothi worlds below. Citizens of Velith Prime, this is Admiral Song Hyok of the Terran Rescue Fleet. We received your call for help, and we're here to answer it. We've come to take you home. The crystal cities below began to sing. Every Velothi on the 3 worlds joined their voices in a harmony that resonated through the crystal structures and rang out across the planet. It was a song of hope, gratitude, and wonder that something like this was possible. The evacuation began at dawn on Velith Prime. Admiral Song Hyok stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as thousands of human ships descended toward the 3 Velothi worlds. Each ship carried specialized equipment and crews trained in alien rescue operations. But the humans quickly discovered that evacuating the Velothi was much harder than they had expected. The first problem came from the Velothi themselves. Unlike humans who would grab their most important belongings and run from danger, the Velothi couldn't bear to leave their cultural treasures behind. Captain Ro Dae-jung, commanding a converted cargo hauler, faced this problem on his first evacuation mission. He had landed near a crystal city to pick up 5,000 Velothi refugees, but they refused to board his ship. "What's the delay?" Admiral Song asked over the communication system. "Sir, they won't leave without their singing gardens." Captain Ro replied, "Apparently these are crystal trees that have been growing and singing for over 1,000 years. They say the trees are their ancestors and they can't abandon them. Dr. Kang Suman, who was coordinating the biological aspects of the evacuation, joined the conversation. The Velati see their crystal formations as living beings. To them, leaving the singing gardens behind would be like us abandoning our children. Admiral Song thought for a moment. Then we don't leave them behind. Ro, can your ship carry the crystal trees? Sir, they're huge. Some of them are 50 meters tall and weigh hundreds of tons. Make room. Strip out anything non-essential and load those trees. Yes, sir. This scene repeated itself across all three Velati worlds. The aliens couldn't leave their harmonic temples, their art installations, their libraries of crystal memory stones, or their meditation chambers. Each item had cultural and religious significance that made it impossible to abandon. Chief Engineer Lee Minho found himself redesigning ship layouts on the spot. We're not just evacuating people, he reported to Admiral Song. We're moving an entire civilization. Captain Yoon Ji-ho faced a different challenge. His converted dreadnought was supposed to carry 20,000 Velati, but the aliens kept bringing more crystal artifacts aboard. His cargo holds were filling up with what looked like furniture but was actually priceless art. Captain, said his chief engineer, we're going to be overweight. The ship won't be able to jump to hyperspace with all this extra mass. Ji-ho looked at the Velati refugees carefully placing their treasures in the cargo bay. He thought about ordering them to leave the artifacts behind, but he couldn't do it. These beautiful crystal sculptures and musical instruments were all that remained of their world. Remove the secondary weapon systems, he ordered, and take out the extra armor plating. We'll make room. Meanwhile, Dr. Kim Yuna was making a disturbing discovery. She had been analyzing the galactic communication networks, trying to understand why no other species had helped the Velati. What she found made her angry. Admiral, she called from her research station aboard the flagship, I need to show you something important. Admiral Song came to her workstation, where multiple screens displayed communication logs and galactic databases. I've been tracking the Velati distress calls, Yuna explained. They sent their message to 17 different species over the past 10 years. I found records of all those transmissions. And every single species received the message. They all understood what it said, and they all chose to ignore it. Admiral Song frowned. Why? Yuna brought up a series of documents on her screen. I found the official responses from their governments. Look at this one from the Zephyrian Empire. The Velati offer no strategic resources or military alliance. Value. Rescue operations would cost approximately 2.7 trillion credits with no return on investment. Recommend filing message for historical record only. She showed him another document. Here's the response from the Crystal Confederation. Velati are pacifist species with no weapons technology or rare minerals. Evacuation mission would require 15% of our total fleet capacity. Cost-benefit analysis indicates negative value. Suggest expressing sympathy and preserving cultural records. Admiral Song read through more of the responses, and his expression grew darker with each one. Every alien species had calculated the cost of helping the Velati, and decided it wasn't worth it. They knew, he said quietly. They all knew these people were going to die and they just didn't care. It gets worse, Yuna said. She brought up a recording of a Galactic Coalition meeting. This is from 6 months ago. The Coalition Council discussed the Velati situation. The recording showed representatives from dozens of alien species debating the issue. Admiral Song listened as they talked about the Velati like they were discussing the weather. The Velati. Extinction is unfortunate but inevitable, said one alien representative. We should focus our resources on species that can contribute to galactic stability and economic growth. Another alien added, emotional responses to distress calls are inefficient. We must make logical decisions based on practical benefits. Admiral Song turned off the recording. He felt sick. They had a meeting to decide whether these people deserved to live. And they decided no. Lieutenant Bae Seojin, who had been monitoring the Devourer, brought even more troubling news. Admiral, I've been studying the phenomenon that's chasing the Velati. It's not natural. What do you mean? The Devourer isn't just a cosmic storm. It's artificial, something built it, and it's intelligent. Dr. Kang Suman joined the conversation. Intelligent how? It's been tracking the Velothi specifically. When they evacuated their homeworld, the Devourer changed course to follow them. It's hunting them. Admiral Song realized the full horror of the situation. You're saying someone created this thing to wipe out entire species? That's exactly what I'm saying. The Devourer is a weapon. Someone, somewhere, built it to commit genocide on a galactic scale. The evacuation continued as the humans processed this terrible knowledge. The Devourer wasn't just a natural disaster. It was a weapon of mass destruction that had been let loose on the galaxy. And the Velothi weren't its only victims. Captain Nawan Bin, commanding a squadron of transport ships, reported another complication. Admiral, the Devourer is affecting nearby star systems. I'm getting reports from our long-range sensors. 3 human colony worlds are in its projected path. Admiral Song felt the weight of command pressing down on him. He had brought 2 million humans into danger to save 12 billion Velothi. But now it seemed like human worlds might be threatened too. Some of his officers began to question the mission. Captain Ro Dayun, a veteran commander, requested a private meeting with the Admiral. Sir, we need to talk about our priorities, Dayun said. If the Devourer is heading for human space, shouldn't we be protecting our own worlds instead of evacuating aliens? Are you suggesting we abandon the Velothi? I'm suggesting we need to think about human lives first. We have a duty to our own species. Admiral Song looked out at the evacuation operations continuing around them. Human crews were working 18-hour shifts, making dangerous trips to the planet's surface and risking their lives to save aliens they had never met before. Captain Dayan, he said finally, I understand your concerns, but we don't abandon people, ever. That's what makes us human. Even if it costs human lives? Especially then. The evacuation continued around the clock. Human engineering crews worked miracles to fit Velothi cultural treasures aboard their ships. They dismantled entire crystal buildings and rebuilt them in cargo holds. They created artificial environments where Velothi artists could continue their work during the long journey. Dr. Kang Sumin solved the most difficult problems of keeping the 2 species alive in the same ships. She designed airlocks that could instantly switch between human and Velothi atmospheres. She created environmental suits that would let humans and Velothi work together safely. Chief Engineer Lee Minho pushed every ship beyond its design limits. Cargo holds became refugee compartments. Weapon bays became cultural preservation centers. Even the Admiral's flagship was converted to carry Velothi families. As the weeks passed, the evacuation became a race against time. The Devourer grew larger and more threatening in the sky above the Velothi worlds. Its dark energy reached out like tentacles, causing storms and earthquakes on the planets below. First Echo of Sorrow, now renamed First Echo of Gratitude by his people, worked alongside the human commanders to coordinate the evacuation. He couldn't understand why the humans were working so hard to save every single Velothi, even the ones who were sick or old. Captain Jiho, he asked during one planning session, your people are taking enormous risks to save our elders and our disabled. In nature, the weak are left behind so the strong can survive. Why do you not follow this logic? Captain Jiho looked at the alien leader with surprise. Because they're people. We don't leave people behind just because they're sick or old. That's not who we are. But it would be more efficient. We're not trying to be efficient. We're trying to be human. First Echo of Gratitude's crystal body glowed with warm colors as he began to understand. Your species values each individual life equally, regardless of their contribution to society. That's right. This is why you came to save us. Not because we deserved it or earned it, but simply because we were alive and needed help. Now you're getting it. 6 months after the Great Evacuation, President Choi Ji-won stood on the observation deck of New Velith Station, watching as the last of the Velothi settlers arrived at their new homeworld. The planet had been specially terraformed for them, a cold world with methane atmosphere where crystal cities could grow once again. Below on the planet's surface, Velothi refugees were already beginning to rebuild their civilization. Their crystal structures grew quickly in the new soil, and the sound of their harmonic songs drifted up through the atmosphere. It was a sound of hope and new beginnings. "It's beautiful," said First Echo of Gratitude, who stood beside the president. The Velothi leader had become the unofficial ambassador between his people and humanity. "We never imagined we would have a new home like this." President Choi smiled. "Your people deserve to live and grow. This is just the beginning." But the president knew that not everyone in the galaxy felt the same way. The cost of Operation Shepherd had been enormous. Humanity had spent the equivalent of fighting a 10-year war just to save an alien species they had never met before. The economic impact was being felt across all human worlds. Dr. Kim Yuna, who now served as the director of Human Velothi Relations, joined them on the observation deck. "Madam President, we have the final numbers from the evacuation. Tell me." 12,300,000 Velothi successfully evacuated and resettled. 0 casualties during transport. Complete preservation of their cultural artifacts, and genetic material for their ecosystem restoration programs. President Choi nodded. "And our costs? Approximately 2.8 trillion credits. 57 human lives lost in accidents during the evacuation. Economic disruption across 200 human worlds. Full recovery estimated at 5 to 7 years." The president was quiet for a moment. 57 people had died saving the Velothi, volunteers, who had known the risks and accepted them anyway. Their sacrifice weighed heavily on her mind. "Any regrets?" First Echo of Gratitude asked, sensing her mood. "About the mission?" "Never," President Choi replied. "About the lives lost?" "Always. But those 57 people died doing what they believed was right. They saved 12 billion lives. I think they would be proud of what we accomplished." The political consequences of Operation Shepherd were still unfolding across the galaxy. Ambassador Na Yunjin had been dealing with them for months, attending meetings with angry alien representatives who couldn't understand humanity's actions. She was currently in the Galactic Coalition Council chambers, facing a room full of hostile, alien diplomats. The Zephyrian representative was speaking, his voice filled with accusation. "The human rescue operation has set a dangerous precedent," he said. "If every species expects to be saved whenever they face extinction, the economic chaos will destroy galactic civilization. The humans have acted irresponsibly and recklessly." Ambassador Na stood to respond. "We acted to save lives. I'm sorry if that seems reckless to you. You spent resources equivalent to a major military campaign on aliens who offered nothing in return," said the Crystalline Confederation representative. "This kind of emotional decision-making is economically devastating and morally necessary," Na replied calmly. The debate continued for hours, but Na could see that many species were genuinely frightened by humanity's actions. They couldn't understand a species that would sacrifice so much for strangers and that made humans seem unpredictable and dangerous. But there were also some surprising supporters. The representative from the Peaceful Assembly, a small alliance of non-violent species, spoke up. "The humans have shown us what we could be," she said. "For too long, we have accepted that the weak must die while the strong survive. But the humans proved that another way is possible. They remind us that civilization should be measured not by our profits but by our compassion." Back on New Velith, Dr. Kang Suman was making an amazing discovery. She had been working with Velothi scientists to understand their unique biology, and what she found surprised everyone. Their harmonic abilities aren't just for communication, she explained to Admiral Song, who was visiting the new colony. The Velothi can use sound and vibration to manipulate matter at the molecular level. They've been using it for art, but the applications for medicine and engineering are incredible. What kind of applications? They can heal damaged tissue, repair metal structures, even purify contaminated water, all through carefully controlled harmonic frequencies. It's technology that could revolutionize human medicine. Admiral Song was amazed. They never mentioned this during the evacuation, because they never thought of it as technology. To them, It's just natural ability, like humans using their hands to build things. But now that they're working with our scientists, they're discovering applications they never imagined. Thiril 9 Echoes, the Velathi scientist who had worked with Dr. Kang during the evacuation, was excited about the possibilities. "Your people saved our lives," he told her. "Now perhaps we can help save yours. Our harmonic healing could cure diseases that have plagued humanity for centuries." The cultural exchange between humans and Velathi was creating unexpected benefits. Human artists were learning to incorporate Velathi harmonic principles into their music. Velathi engineers were adapting human technology to their crystal growing techniques. Captain Yoon Jiho, now promoted to admiral and commanding the joint Human Velathi Deep Space Monitoring Network, was seeing the results of this cooperation. "We're detecting distress calls that we never could have heard before," he reported. "The Velathi harmonic sensors can pick up signals from across the galaxy." "Any responses needed?" President Choi asked during their regular briefing. "3 so far. A mining colony trapped by asteroid impacts, a research station with failing life support, and a passenger liner with engine problems, all successfully rescued." The president smiled. "I suppose we're getting a reputation." "Yes, ma'am. Word is spreading that humans will come if you call for help. We're receiving messages from species we've never heard of before." This was exactly what worried the other members of the Galactic Coalition. Ambassador Na faced their concerns at every diplomatic meeting. "You're encouraging dangerous behavior," the Zephyrian representative accused. "Species are taking unnecessary risks because they believe you will rescue them. Or maybe they're taking necessary risks to help others because they know someone will help them if things go wrong," Na replied. "Isn't that how civilization should work? It's economically unsustainable. We'll see about that." The real test of humanity's new reputation came when Dr. Kang Suman made a disturbing discovery. She had been studying the data Lieutenant Bei Seojin had collected about the Devourer, and what she found sent shockwaves through the scientific community. "The Devourer isn't just one weapon," she announced at an emergency meeting of human and Velathi leaders. "It's one of many. We've detected at least 6 similar entities moving through different parts of the galaxy." Admiral Song felt his blood turn cold. 6 of them? Maybe more. They seemed to be searching for inhabited worlds to consume. The Velathi were just unlucky enough to be in the path of one of them. President Choi realized the implications immediately. How long before one of them threatens another inhabited system? Based on their movement patterns, probably within the next 2 years. There's a good chance it will be a world we've never had contact with before. The meeting was silent as everyone processed this information. Somewhere in the galaxy, another species was about to face the same horror that had nearly destroyed the Velathi. And thanks to humanity's response to the first crisis, they would probably send out a distress call. "We need to be ready," President Choi said finally. "If another species calls for help, we have to be prepared to answer." Admiral Song nodded. "I'll start working on contingency plans. We'll need faster ships, better equipment, and more trained rescue crews. The economic impact will be enormous," warned Dr. Kim Yuna. "We're still recovering from the Velathi evacuation." "I know," the president replied. "But we've already shown the galaxy who we are. We can't turn away now." First Echo of Gratitude, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. "You will not face this alone. The Velathi owe you our lives. We will help however we can." Over the following months, human space transformed once again. Shipyards that had been converted back to civilian use were retooled for rescue operations. The military developed new classes of ships designed specifically for evacuation missions. Training programs prepared volunteers for contact with unknown alien species. But the most important change was psychological. Humanity had accepted its role as the galaxy's rescuers. When someone cried for help, humans would answer. It wasn't a burden. It was an honor. The test came sooner than expected. Dr. Kim Yuna was working late at the Deep Space Monitoring Center when alarms began sounding throughout the facility. "What is it?" she asked Lieutenant Bei Seojin, who was manning the detection stations. "New distress signal." Very strong transmission from the spiral arm region. It's the same pattern as the Velothi call. Yuna's heart raced. Another species facing the Devourer? It looks that way. The signal is from a species called the Harmonious Union. 23 billion individuals across 7 worlds. They're asking for help. Within minutes, the emergency response system was activated. President Choi was awakened in her residence.